Good morning. It is Thirsty Thursday. Let's go. We got 2 days left in the week. If you are a regular working person, if you are somebody like me, there's still 4 more days this week. Um, but it's a good day. It's a good day. I was up very early this morning. I got up at like 3:30 is when I woke up, but I got out of bed at 4 o'clock. Not my intent. I just couldn't sleep any longer, and I was tired of fighting it. So I got up and read for a while, did some work. But my wife also woke up early for some reason today, and came up to the office, and we talked for a while, and got into like this hour-long conversation about like relationships and behaviors and all sorts of stuff. So I'm going to go into that in a minute. But the first thing I want to talk about, so she picked up on her trip back home this weekend a My Pillow. Have you seen one of these things? It's like a TV infomercial pillow, and my boys just happened to be whacking the crap out of each other with it last night. But I can't shake this, and I've been saying it in my head ever since we were talking about it last night. Is I think on the commercial, if you've ever seen this, let me know. But I feel like the woman in the commercial is always saying my pillah, my pillah. It's my pillah. And I don't know if it's actually true, and I haven't bothered to Google it, but I can't quit walking around the house going, no, that's my pillah. Like not pillow, pillah. And so I don't know. It's just like one of those stupid things that's stuck in my head right now, and I cannot get it out. That and the TikTok songs that my kids keep playing on their iPads. Those things. If you get those beats in your head, man, it's hard to get out. Speaking of hard to get out, I still have this sensitivity to light thing going on with my migraines. It's driving me crazy. I always feel like I'm like close to being on the verge of another one. I don't know what's going on there, but hopefully I get through it just like everything else, and then I'll talk about this again in another couple of years. Today is our day to do our live session at 3 o'clock, so don't forget that. I will be live on the Nick Boris page at 3 o'clock. That's facebook.com/definedlife. And today we are going to talk about getting like back out of a rut, like how to re-begin with any kind of habit, but also including define my day. And we'll talk about a couple of things. One of the things I wanted to talk about today, because I saw some comments from yesterday's post. Pam says, what about sick days? How do you deal like when you don't want to get out of bed, and you're forgiving yourself for it, right? You just don't want to do anything. You have pneumonia and you don't want to write in your Define My Day book. So what do? I think the answer is nothing. If you don't want to do anything, don't do anything. That's perfectly fine. Ideally, in an ideal world, I would, even on sick days, my priority might be take care of myself. Or if I can manage one thing, fine. But, even if you want to journal, because sometimes when you have that much time to think, lay in bed and think, you can journal a little bit, and maybe even do it in the back of the book. I don't know. But if you don't want to waste pages, right? So that's a concern for a lot of people. You don't want to waste pages. And I've been there. Like if I'm sick in the middle of a week and I've done Monday, Tuesday, and then like day 3 might be Wednesday, and I don't fill in day 3 or day 4 because I'm sick in bed, right? Understandable. But then you don't want to start you don't want to start like leave those 2 pages blank. So what you can do is backfill those pages and fill in, like taking care of myself was a priority today. Like you backfill those pages. In reality, even if you're paying full price for Define My Day and not using one of the bundles, even if if you leave a couple of pages blank, it's really only a couple of cents, to be honest. It's like, not even 50 cents. But if you still don't want to be wasteful, if you consider that wasteful, then, what you can do is complete the week, start, but that would move you off. So I'm trying to think this through. You can leave it, you can start off and leave those blank. You can start day 3 on a different day, but that would screw up your planning day. You could write down your priorities in the back of the book and then pick back up where you left off on day 3 or whatever day that, day 3 of the next week. So like if you were sick Wednesday and Thursday, didn't complete the week, and then you completed the week in the back of the book in the freehand pages, the note pages, then the following week, you would still do Monday and Tuesday in the back of the book, and then on Wednesday pick back up on the day that you left off and continue on through that. Just date it, like continued on with sick last week, something like that. The point is the process. Like the point is never the book, right? The Define My Day book is just a place to do the process. So you want to make sure you're just doing the work. It doesn't matter where you put it. I guess that's kind of what I'm saying. So, as long as you're keeping up with the process, that's okay, right? So, however it works for you, don't get, she's saying in here, I don't feel guilty, and you shouldn't feel guilty. There's just days where you just need to stop and heal yourself. So you do what you can do to fix the situation you're in, and then you move forward, and however you continue on with the process is fine. Whatever makes it work. The other thing that I wanted to mention, somebody else commented about the videos. Like these videos are 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes long, right? And they're hard to watch. You just want to kind of get the basic concept and move on. The problem with that is that these videos take as much time as they do for me to speak through them. But when I'm doing a 2 to 3 minute like outtake or like quick clip, that actually takes like an hour to edit. 1, because I'm not a video editor, and 2, because it actually takes that much time to like figure out. I have to watch the whole video, mark what's actually important or important enough to put the time into, and then like the editing and trying to make it so that it's a digestible video, and then exporting it and uploading it to YouTube or wherever else. That takes a lot of time. We don't have a video editor that I trust with the process at the moment. We're looking. I just contacted somebody last week about it, actually. But it is a goal. It is a priority to come up with smaller videos. So what I'm going to try to do is yesterday's video, I pulled out about 2 or 3 minutes that we can do with it and quickly export. And I'm going to try to do that. It's not going to be the most polished thing in the world, but make it messy, right? From Monday's talk, make it messy. So I'm making it messy because I know there's a lot of people that can't do more than 2 or 3 minutes. I hear you. We're going to make that happen for you, but it all takes time. So we're getting there. The other thing that I want to talk about is this sucker right here. The do one thing that matters, or I can't read. Do one thing every day that centers you. And so I showed you the guys this when we were thinking about putting it on the website, and we actually did buy some to test them out. And every day, and you don't like, it's not dated, so you fill in your own date, like when you did this one. And so if you just start in the beginning and start in day 1, the first thing you do is, well, you can read the instructions, and then it's, and you, when will you begin that long journey into yourself? Today. How? Right? How would be start with Define My Day, right? And then the next day you do this. It might be the next day. It might be a week later. Whenever you get into it again. Might, could, would. They are all contemptible auxiliaries. Today I will. Today I will what? Fill in Define My Day. The next day, I make the most of all that comes and the least of all that goes. And then today you write, I made the most of this today. And you fill that in, right? It's just prompting you to think a little bit more about, what you're doing as you go through your day. I love this book. I love it. I haven't used it yet because I didn't want to mark up the one that I had. But now we have about 27 left because we've sold them a lot faster than we wanted to. So we're going to be ordering more, but they are on the website now, available to purchase. They are not available in part of the bundles because we don't have enough of them, and we can't go through them that fast. And we can't discount them really either because they're kind of pricey. So, yeah. Now, what I will do, though, is that if you attend today's live session at 3 o'clock, and if you comment or ask a question or comment on somebody else's comment, we will randomly draw someone to be sent one of these for free. So if you are interested in being if you're interested in the conversation this afternoon, and you want a free book, come on in and participate, and we're going to hand one out. So this conversation we had about relationships today, I've had it with you guys before, to varying degrees, but this perception, and this thing that I've gone through where I sort of pulled away from all of my relationships, and what it is, the cause of it is to be more comfortable with myself. It's hard to change when the people around you are used to you being a certain way. It's not that they don't want you to grow for the most part. It just makes people uncomfortable. Some people don't want you to grow. Some people get jealous. Some people get upset. Some people get really uncomfortable. And it causes them to lash out in toxic ways. Because for the most part, look, I mean, we've made relationships based on who we are. And if we are damaged, if we are needy, if we are toxic, if we are whatever, then we create relationships based on that. And other people that find that behavior acceptable are probably toxic themselves. So, it's one of those things where, I had a lot of relationships that I was looking around going, yeah, I'm not satisfied with this. And I can't grow when I'm in this relationship. So I had to back away from a lot of friendships and keep them at arm's length or cut them off completely because they weren't allowing me to really dive into who I am or who I want to be. And so in this vacuum of minimal extraneous relationships, I held on to the very important ones for me. And in that vacuum, I was able to read, the stack of books behind you. I was able to read them. I was able to do online courses. I was able to watch YouTube videos, listen to podcasts, go to the gym, work on my relationship with my wife, fight with my wife, raise my kids, develop a stronger relationship with my kids. All of the things that I wouldn't have had time for or the right mindset for when I was working within these poor relationships, I was now able to do. And the key point of that is that I needed to develop a love for myself and really focus on my core values and developing my core values, discovering my core values, really trying to get clear on what was most important for me before I could start going back out into the world. Quite literally. It wasn't until this past year when I started going back to certain networking events and I found ones where I still felt uncomfortable and other ones where suddenly the relationships were newer. I started talking to other people that were incredibly healthy themselves, and we were able to talk on a different level than I was able to 3 or 4 years ago. And you find, I found, it's funny because I had a weird perspective walking in the door. I was almost walking in the door expecting the same types of interactions that I had 3 or 4 years ago and being surprised by the new interactions I was having. In seeing people differently, I could see people differently. I saw the humanity in the people that I didn't see before because I was too focused on my own stuff. And that's not to say I have it all figured out, but it is a new perspective for me. And I would not have achieved that perspective had I not backed away from everything and seriously investigated myself. And I'm still going through that process, but I can do it now a little bit more out in the open. So, it takes time. And I see, for me, I had the luxury of doing that because I work from home. I choose where I go. I choose who I visit. If you work in a corporation, it's probably a lot harder. If you work in a closer community, a work community, it's incredibly hard, especially if that community has a bad culture. And look, if you are a person that has significant weaknesses right now, you're probably working in a culture that finds those weaknesses perfectly acceptable. and maybe they, invite people in with those weaknesses. So it's, growing within that culture is incredibly hard. You're not quite ready to go into a really positive growth culture because you might not fit there yet or feel really intimidated, but you're ready to grow out of the culture you're currently in. And that can go from friends to work. It's incredibly difficult to manage. It's hard to get out of where you are, wherever that might be. You don't have to be the walking wounded. You can be anywhere. Anytime you try to grow out of a state you're in, your surroundings don't want to let you do that. It's incredibly hard. You have to have a lot of willpower, and you have to build up a lot of momentum. And that's making me immediately think of this whole process with Define My Day. Slow steps, small steps. Keep moving forward just a little bit slowly, and then as you build momentum, you can pile more on. But it's hard to make that immediate personality change or that immediate habit change. It's just your world around you doesn't want you to do that. But then when you get to this place where you can start to reevaluate your relationships and your work environment and your surroundings, you start to find things that are really not acceptable for where you are anymore. And you might find relationships that you built in the past that are not okay, right? And you really have to start asking questions. Did I say that right? Yeah. You really have to start to ask yourself questions like, what is this person bringing to the table in our relationship? Are they constantly taking from me? Or is it an equitable relationship where sometimes I offer more value, sometimes they offer more value, but together we're growing? And if it's constantly somebody taking and maybe even resentful for any growth that you have or any happiness you have, then that might be a relationship that you have to start pushing away. I've done that. I have friends that I like, I love some of them, and but it's not a relationship that I can engage in every day, because you can't be in a healthy relationship and be healthy. Or I'm sorry, you can't be in an unhealthy relationship and be healthy. Like you can't constantly subject yourself to an unhealthy person and expect that that's not going to rub off on you in some way, that like it sort of infects you in some small way, whether it's mindset. Well, it's all mindset. That negativity or that toxicity hurts you. And so we have to look at the relationships we're in and sort of decide who's pulling us down more than they're allowing us to pull them up, right? Like somebody here has more gravitational pull, and we have to figure out, is this a person that I can grow with? And sometimes I'm going to pull them up and sometimes they're going to pull me up, but together we're going to grow? Or is this a relationship where this person's going to continue to pull me down? And this person's going to continue to damage me and damage my other relationships because they refuse to look at themselves and say, I need to grow a little bit. And those are the ones that you don't want to say, go away, but you kind of need to hold back a little bit and say, I love you, but, you have some stuff to work on. And you don't want to maybe even verbally say this, but, going back to my scenario, I'll go out and I'll hang out with somebody and I'll have a drink and we'll have a good time. But that's not the person that I'm going to call tomorrow and say, hey man, how you doing? Let's talk about what's going on. It's just going to be like this casual, like we were great friends before, but now, I'm in a different place and I can't engage in these other types of discussions or activities or whatever. I've grown out of that, and I'm not telling anybody that. I'm just saying it to myself. Like, that's not healthy for me. It's good for you. If that's where you want to be, you can be there. That's not where I want to be. And so that's kind of how I look at the relationships around me. At the same time, I'm looking forward to relationships, right? So I've held on to the really good relationships that I have. The people that, man, every time I see them, I feel good. Like it's just like I'm like, yeah, that person inspired me to do something, or I helped them out with something, and like that, where there's this back and forth, and when we're done with that conversation, we're like, yeah, that felt great, right? That's an awesome relationship. Now they're not always going to be like that, but they should be more that way than any other way. And then you look forward to the new relationships you're going to build, where where you're walking down the street, or you walk into a coffee shop, or you go into a business meeting, or you're playing with your kids in the park, or whatever it might be. And you, like, just healthy people identify each other. You can see it in the mannerisms. There's just little micro expressions that people naturally pick up on, where they see each other and they say, hey, let's talk, right? And then you have a healthy conversation, and there's more evaluation going on there. And then you just continue to grow from there. And, you decide as you're going, like, hey, this is a person I'd like to see more often, right? This is a person that I'd love to talk business with. I'd love to talk politics with. I would love to talk, raising kids together, or not together, like, but we're talking about it together. This is a person I'd love to talk to about, business opportunities, or like, there's all sorts of topics, whatever it might be, but it's all about growth and moving forward. And it's not about, like, just like who did what to who, and this and that, and bitching and moaning and all the other stuff that happens in a bad relationship. So, as you're looking around at your day today, you try to identify those people that, in your heart what a good activity is, or a good use of your time, or something. Like, if you have a value system, what makes you feel good about behaving a certain way, and what makes you feel bad. Right and wrong. Inherently, we all do. We just try to rationalize why we did something wrong, or why we didn't do something good. And so look at your influences around you, your relationships around you, and identify today those people that are the best influence on you, and the people that you should probably invest more time in building a relationship. And then look at the people around you that take more than they give, that encourage you to do things that are damaging for yourself, and identify ways that you can nicely, discreetly take a few steps back. And sometimes it's slowing down the pace of how we respond to text messages, or calling back a day later rather than 10 minutes later. Slowing it down just a little bit, so that we give ourselves some breathing room and some room to grow. Just give a little bit of room. So that's my challenge for you today. Look around to the relationships that you have around you. Which ones are healthy, and which ones are draining you and stopping you from being the best person that you can be. All right, so let me check out the comments here. Luann says, I'm having hand surgery tomorrow on the hand that I write with. Sorry to hear that. I can't do anything with the other. Any suggestions about how I'm going to define my day? I would record it. My first thought is that I would do a video diary. I would grab your phone and press record and go through the process. This would be really interesting, Luann. I think I would love to hear, if you do this, how it comes out. And then you can go at the end of the day, watch yourself, and even record your journal. The other thing you can do, if you don't want to do that, the other thing you can do is dictate to yourself using a notes app on your phone. So you have the notes app, and you just do day one, and then you priority one, blah 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 blah, and then at the end of the day you can journal that way. I would love to see, if you do that, I would love to hear how it works out for you. All right, Helen says, any suggestions of a good direction to go in when there is no choice at this point in time to physically distance yourself from a negative person? My first gut response there is to begin setting boundaries. I don't know who this person is in your life, and I apologize for sniffling here, but I don't know who this person is in your life. But I think it's about setting boundaries. I think it's, you pick one area. I don't think you completely shut down, but I think you pick an area and begin to progress. If you can't go anywhere, if there's no choice and you can't leave the situation, then you just need to start establishing boundaries in this relationship. And I think it takes a lot of empathy too. I think you have to really put yourself out there to try to focus on what the other person might be experiencing or feeling also. And there's a lot in there, right? There's a lot intertwined in there. But I can relate my own experience with my wife. We are very different people, and we go through our stuff at a different pace than each other, right? I mean, like, there's some times where she's in a great place. There's other times that I am. And there are different areas where we feel better than the other. And we have to give each other a little bit of space. And that's the same relationship you might have with anybody. It could be a coworker. It could be a boss. It could be a child. Especially if you've raised a child to be a certain way for 20 years or 30 years, it's hard to change that relationship. There's a lot of history there. But, you can verbally say, I really want this to change. How do you feel we can do that? And they might, if it's a bad relationship, they might say, well, you can blah, 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 right? You almost have to expect that sometimes. And you can say, okay, I hear you. Can you hear me? And you kind of explain, okay, elderly parent. That's incredibly hard, especially if siblings involved also. We have a lot of people going through this in this group. And I would invite anybody else dealing with an elderly parent to get involved in this conversation specifically, because this happens. And you feel responsible, right? I mean, there's nowhere they can go. And if you are the caregiver, there's almost nothing you can do. I actually just posted an article yesterday, I believe it was, on my Facebook page about, leaving the relationship with a parent that refuses to grow up. This woman, the author, her stepdad that would always acted as the buffer, died of a stroke last year, and he was always the one that kind of buffered the relationship between the daughter and the mom. And the mom ended up, like, recently firing off a gun and getting arrested and being drunk in public. And so, the woman had to say to herself, I'm walking away from this. Like, I'm not going to get pulled into your stuff anymore. Your life is your responsibility. And this came up just today in reading this book, Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. She's talking about empathy. And I'm going to read this paragraph right here. If struggle is being down in a hole, empathy is not jumping into the hole with someone who is struggling and taking on their emotions, or owning their struggle as yours to fix. If their issues become yours, now you have two people stuck in a hole. Not helpful. Boundaries are important here. We have to know where we end and others begin if we really want to show up with empathy. And I think that's really important. A lot of times we feel like we have to be in the experience with people and almost take on responsibility for fixing their problems. And with elderly parents, a lot of times they put themselves in that situation. They are who they are based on 60, 70, 80 years of being a certain way, right? And I'm not saying that anybody 60 years old is elderly. I mean, that process could have started later on in life. So don't go there. But I think that there's many years. The point is, there's many years of behaviors that are built up over time that put them where they are, and you can't take responsibility for that. And it's almost like dealing with a child. In the way I've seen, like, with my mom handling my grandparents, and with other people I know handling their parents, they almost tend to act like children. They act out, they throw fits, they're bitch and moan and all this other stuff, and you sort of have to set the tone in the same way. I liken it to how I set the tone with my kids. Like, we don't talk that way. We don't tell people that sort of thing. We clean up after ourselves. It's all this stuff. All the little things. You have to. You're now in a leadership position with a person that you are used to following, and it's a flip. But you have to be like, this isn't okay. This isn't okay for me, and this is not okay for you to behave this way. And if you want to have a conversation, you're not going to speak to me this way. Or if you want me to keep coming around, this needs to change. Like, you can lay that out there. And I think especially it's harder with a spouse because you're on the equal plane with a spouse. But when it's an elderly parent, it's flipped. And so you sort of have to become a leader there to help them understand the boundaries of that behavior. I'm certainly not an expert in this, and I know a lot of other people are going through this. There are people in this group that have weird hours with parents with dementia, with sicknesses and things that are going through. So I invite anybody going through this problem, please chime in with much more experience than I have. I'm looking at this from a not currently in the situation point of view, only knowing how I would treat my kids or how I act with my kids, and kind of putting myself in that situation and knowing what other people are going through. I mean, I hear the stories all of the time, and you get so engrossed in it, and you feel responsible because the parent is toward the end of their life. You want to make it comfortable for them, enjoyable for them. You feel obligated. Who else is going to do it if you're not? And a lot of times in that scenario, who else is going to do it if you're not? It's because you are the responsible one, right? If you have siblings, they can wash their hands of it because you're the one that's going to do the work, and they know you are. And then if you don't do the work, then who's there? Oh, it's your fault because you're not doing the work you should be doing. Well, why should you be doing it? Why nobody else? So there's so many facets to it. But you shouldn't put yourself through hell just because you have this sense of obligation. You need to be healthy. You need to make sure there are boundaries there. I need to run because somebody's at the front door and I locked it. But I do want to continue this conversation. So please, anybody that has this experience, please leave a comment in the group, and I'd love to hear from all of you and give some better advice here. All right, I'm gonna run. I'm gonna go get Luann because she's at the front door. If you guys have anything else, please drop a comment, and I will talk to you tomorrow about it. But remember, we have that live session at 3 o'clock today, and comment if you want to win that new book. All right, thanks a lot. Have a good day, guys. Bye.